Hi everyone, I'm Julie and I am bipolar. What we're going to do today is a demonstration on how to make beaded bracelets on an elastic string. Um, just to give you a little backstory on this, back in 2019, I did end up having a little vacation in the behavioral health hospital. So I was there for a week, and one of the activities we were taught was how to bead bracelets. Um, I ended up liking it so much that when I got out of the hospital, I was on a beading frenzy. I blew a lot of money on beads, and they kept stacking up. And so what I started doing was giving them away in random acts of kindness, whether it be friends or strangers. People would see me wearing them out and about and ask where I got them, and I usually would just end up giving it away. Just because I do like to give and put a smile on people's face. So that's the backstory. This is the first bracelet I ever made. So definitely has some sentimental value. This is what started my story, so I'm always going to keep that. And just to touch a little bit more on being bipolar, I am 43 now, and I've had it as long as I can remember. I was even a little bit off as a child, but it definitely presented itself more in my teenage years. Now, I went most of my adult life not on medication. That's been a battle in itself. Most of them make me sick. Um, People familiar with bipolar disorder, whether it be yourself, friends, family, um, it's not something you really want people to see. So it's friends, family, and people who have bipolar disorder probably know the struggle it takes to try the different medications. Typically results in getting very, very sick, not feeling well. In my case, we had to stop taking any type of antipsychotic. It was giving me a permanent moving disorder called tardive dyskinesia. So if you do see some weird little like facial tics or awkward movement, I still have a little residual of it, and that's just the way it is. Fortunately, we caught it fairly early on, but it really limited what kind of medications I could be treated with. Um, so that's that. And, it's still up and down. I still get manic, I still get depressed, but we're doing the best we can to manage it. And this is one of my coping mechanisms. I tend to do it more when I'm manic to quiet my thoughts down. I get a lot of racing thoughts that just kind of go in a loop. Um, and it's also, I tend to be a little more reckless when I'm manic. That's kind of a hallmark trait. Is you just it's hard to explain. Other than it's just the decision making tree is not as precise as it could be. Not that it ever is, but it doesn't it, it it just doesn't bode well overall. So I have to find ways to engage my mind and just calm those thoughts down. And then on the flip side, when I'm depressed, really hard for me to get out of bed. I also have a lot of aches and pains associated with the bipolar disorder, but I also happened to break my back years ago, never had surgery. Not to give you a whole sob story, but I've had trouble with that as well. So that's just kind of compounded all my issues. But here I am walking, talking, and I'm happy about that. So I can only hope for the best and keep on smiling. That's what I do best. um, so what we're going to do is we're going to start with the beading process here. So I'll just kind of walk you through it step by step. Another fun little fact about me is I do have anxiety. I've had sweaty palms since I was a kid. It's embarrassing. So for me, I need to keep the elastic string that we're going to use sweat and oil free because it makes it more difficult to tie down. In the end, it gets a little slick and slippery. So I do have to wash my hands, make sure they're completely dry. And then I also keep a little rag around just to kind of dab my hands when like right before I tie it off. So that's me. It's just one of those weird things. Kind of embarrassing, but it is, that's just the fact of life. So what I use primarily is going to be a 1 millimeter. I happen to like Stretch Magic. I'm not promoting or endorsing any products that you see in this video, but this is just the toolkit that I currently have. And this is a fairly popular brand that you can find in bead stores, craft stores, online, but you can do your own research. This is just what I happen to like. So I usually use the 1 millimeter for beads that are 4 millimeters to 8 millimeters in size. Then I have a more heavy duty one, which is 1.5 millimeters. That's going to be for larger beads. I would say like 10 millimeters and above. I usually don't go much bigger than 10. And then if you're working with really small beads, I go with the 0.8 millimeters. And those are the ones where I really have to break out those glasses and, try to feed it through. It's a little more challenging because the holes are really tiny. So what we're going to do is, first things first, is just take a good size of string here, and we're going to stretch it. So I'm going to go ahead and just chop it off there. I have these fun little unicorn scissors. I'm kind of a child at heart. I'm also a crazy cat lady. So I have little scissors that look like a cat. So I just like to have a little bit of, fun tools to work with. So now we have our string. And what we're going to do is stretch it, like I said, and it has a tendency to snap, and it really hurts. It really, really hurts. So we're going to prepare just in case it does that. I like to wear gloves. Sometimes I'll wear long sleeves and even just, cover my whole body because I never know where it's going to snap, and it really, really hurts. So voila, we have gloves. All right, so you really have to stretch it. Stretch, 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 stretch. And what this does is it allows the elastic to tie down on itself. If it's not stretched enough, one, the bracelet will start becoming loose and stretched out. And two, it makes it the right diameter to fit into the beads. And then, of course, it does also help tie it down to itself. So you really want to stretch, 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 stretch. And we're going to stretch it some more. You just got to keep going at it. It takes a little time, and you can see, it's hard to see on the video, but you'll see that it starts kind of turning a milky white color instead of clear, and that's a good indication you've stretched it just enough. And you have to learn how to feel. You'll feel the tension kind of releasing to where it just doesn't, it doesn't really want to go anymore. But again, you have to be careful of that snap back because it does hurt. So we're just going to continue to stretch. In the beginning, I still have problems with it, and I've been doing this for 5 years. In the beginning, I wasn't stretching it well enough and had all sorts of issues until I really learned how to just dig in there and get it to where it needs to be. All right, we're just going to continue stretching. All right, stretch, stretch, stretch. And you'll see that the whole length of this string has definitely gotten longer. So we're going to stretch the ends a little bit more and get this ready to go. All right. And what we're going to do next is I'm gonna take the gloves back off. I'm not as nimble with my fingers with them on, so I'll save those for later. And the next step is we're gonna cut each end off. Those are the ends that don't stretch as well. And then we're just gonna put that to the side. I like to keep like a little, let's see, yeah, I like to keep a bag next to me these days because otherwise my ends and strings keep piling up and the cats get into them and they just end up all over the house. So I try to clean as I go. That's just me. And the next step is, this is what I use personally. Everybody might have a different technique. I use alligator clips and I clip it on one end of the string. And what that will do is it'll prevent the beads from sliding off the other end while I'm beading on one end. And that's happened to me a lot. It's just, you know, you get kind of into the zone and forget what you're doing and you pick it up or move it and half your work is gone. So definitely want to keep one end tied off or, you know, clipped. And then if you happen to be working on a bracelet and you decide you need to take a break or, you know, leave it as is, you want to go ahead and just clip the other end, and that'll keep it and save it until you pick it up again and start working on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to show you a finished product first, and then I'm going to clip it and start over just because it's all here ready to go. So, and it's very common that you'll have to restring them as well. So it's just a really easy process. It basically covers two birds in one stone. It shows you can just clip it if you need to and start over. Say it was too short or too long, or just over time it stretched out. Then you would just take the bracelet, clip it, and then start over and add whatever extra beads or take away as needed. Oh yeah, just to touch on this is hematite. It's pretty much my most popular bracelet design and stone. It's rather inexpensive, but it looks it looks a little more ritzy than it is, but it's a very popular one. So I'll go ahead and cut it. And actually, just before I do that, I'm gonna try to show you here what it looks like. Hold on, it got a little super glue on it and it wants to stay. Gotta loosen it up. Okay, so what I do is I use this little grommet here to hide the knot. So it's kind of a silver bead with it has a larger hole for it to hide under. So let's go ahead and clip it right by the knot, and we'll keep this moving here. All right, so the beads are just gonna go loose, kind of, sometimes they roll around. Now, some people have, bead trays. I actually do have one, but I have to lay a towel down on it because it's just a hard surface. The beads go rolling every which direction. So for now, I just am using this. It's the lid to one of my file boxes. So it works, it serves the purpose. And let's see here. So we'll just go ahead and take all the beads off. Okay. There we go. There's a couple stuck on there, and that's because I'm using a demo one and it got a little super glue. That will be a step later. All right, so here is this is the part where you just kind of zone out and do your thing. So usually it doesn't take long, but like if you already know what design you're doing, it's really easy to just go and restring it. Now, if I'm designing, that takes a little more time. Let's see, I want a different bead here because that one has glue on it. But yeah, if you're designing, it takes a little more time just because you're trying to put thought into it and you want to see like whether the beads look good together or not. And I need some glasses here My old age is catching up with me, so I'm gonna do the grandma look here. All right, so let's take a bead and we're just gonna insert it. And then I also use, I call them spacers. It's very common for beads, you know, of the same size just to be strung together. I like to add a little extra detail to mine. So these are very small beads. They're hard to see on camera, but I just kind of use these as spacers, and they are hematite as well. All right, so let's get going here. And the nice thing about this is it does occupy my mind, but I also will turn on like a podcast or some music to listen to. It's like just not quite distracting enough to where you can actually do this and tune into something else and listen, but you can also just completely get your mind absorbed into the beading process. So as I'm doing this, I just wanted to mention, please be kind. I know everybody, you know, has a comment, something to say, and we have our keyboard warriors here. I'm very aware of the fact that I have issues. I've pretty much heard it all, positive and negative, so please always be kind. You know, if you do have something mean to say, I've probably been called worse by better, so you know, whatever you do, just try to keep it positive if possible. Now, on that note, there's other people out there who bead, and they might have different techniques or ways to do things, so I'm always open to ideas, suggestions. I would like to advance to different types of jewelry making. This just happened to be something that I really enjoyed, and it was simple enough to where I don't get too frustrated with it, other than when when I'm tying it down. They do have a tendency to snap when I do the tie down, which is discouraging because you spend all this time putting it together, that it snaps on you and beads go flying everywhere. So expect that. It's going to happen. And just try to keep track of the beads. It's usually better to be like on carpet or on a non-hardwood floor, because you'll find beads in other rooms. I don't know how they get there, but they tend to travel. So just know that that's going to happen at times, and you'll kind of get the feel for it as you progress. Let's see, but sometimes, you know, I'll have worked on a bracelet, restrung it 2 or 3 times. At that point, I usually have to get up and walk away and take a break. I tend to be better at beading or not having that issue when I'm not under pressure. So, you know, say I'm working on a project for, you know, a friend or a gift, and they need it in a certain amount of time. For whatever reason, I always have had issues with them snapping when I'm under that pressure. So it's just, that's the way it is, and I have to remember that, you know, I just shake it off and keep going and come back to it if I need to. Yeah, you know, with this whole project and hobby, I just really want to help people. You know, again, it might not be your cup of tea, but there are a lot of different coping mechanisms for this, and, you know, any other ailments people may have as well. And it's just a fun thing. They also make great gifts. So say you forgot to go buy something and get a present or what have you, and are in a pinch, what I do is I just break out the beads, and even if I've like maybe given them to somebody else in the past, I will give them another one and it'll complement what I gave them, or it could be something completely different. And sometimes I like to do a little digging, like if I'm surprising somebody, I'll ask kind of like what colors they like, or I'll try to take note of what colors they wear, and I'm silently kind of sizing things up to make it more personal. I really like to personalize things, so that's one of the things I do if I'm kind of lost and can't figure out what style somebody wants. So yeah, that's kind of my recon that I do. The other thing is being able to assess somebody's wrist size with being covert about it. So after some time, you kind of start getting to know what size wrist, and finding ways to assess that as well. And obviously women and men have different wrist sizes, so I do use my handy little bracelet size measurement to assist with that as well once I'm making them. So let's see here, moving along. But what you can do is go online to find average size charts, and they do vary a bit. Everybody's got kind of a different idea of what small, medium, and large are, but you'll be able to kind of see what they average out to. And then some people like they like a looser fit, and then some people like them to be pretty snug. So if it's somebody that I'm surprising, just always keep in mind that they can be restrung. So you can do your best guesstimate of what size it'll be, and then if it worst comes to worst, you'll just do exactly what I just did. You'll take the bracelet, cut it, and you either add a bead or however many beads it'll take to get to the correct size. And then you'll just restring it just like this. So I always try to keep a few extra beads around, especially if they're if they're kind of a more obscure bead. But I always kind of like to keep a little stash of them just in case. And then I tell people to do their best to try and gather up all the beads and spacers and everything. If it does happen to snap, and I'll happily try to restring it for them. So we're getting closer here. All right. The other thing I wanted to mention is I like going to bead stores in person, just because I like to see the texture and the true color. Some are faceted. You can really see the sparkle, and the camera just doesn't pick things up the same way as they do look in person. So they definitely. I like to go to different bead stores, and I'll spend hours and a lot of money in those places. But once you kind of have an idea of your go-to beads, like the hematite ones, you can get them at other sources like Amazon or other online stores for purchase. So sometimes that saves you a little bit of money depending on where you source them from. But that's half the fun. Like for instance, I went to Hawaii and I saw there was a bead store in Maui, and I just had to go in there. And the beads there were definitely unique from the ones that were local to my region. So, that's part of the fun and uniqueness of it, is that you can get these really great, great artistic pieces just based off of the region you're in and what stores you're sourcing the beads from. They all have kind of their own unique qualities at these bead stores. So, all right, we're just about there. All right, so this is the fun part. we're gonna tie it off. All right, so this is what we got. And I just want to show you, I always try to give a little extra room on each end when I'm tying them off, so that I have enough string to work with. So we're gonna do 3 simple square knots, and I remove the alligator clip. All right, and then we're just gonna go ahead and let's see, we're gonna go over once. Come on, work with me. All right, there's one. You wanna try to get it as close as possible, tighten it as much as possible, then keep a little bit of tension so that it doesn't start loosening up on you. And you're gonna go in again, and then you're gonna start trying to get it to tighten down on itself. So this is the part that I have a lot of trouble with. So don't give up. It's gonna happen. Don't worry. Just try it again. So you just kind of want to go one way. We're gonna go again, and you can kind of feel the tension. You don't want to go too hard, otherwise that's when it snaps. But you need to make it tight enough so that it tightens onto itself, and you'll feel what I mean when you're tightening it onto itself. Sometimes you'll feel the string slip a little bit through the beads, and that way you know it's tightening down. And then I need to test it to see if it actually did what I wanted it to do here. So you want it to have a little stretch because people have to get it over their hand and their wrist. So that's a good amount. And then the thing here is, see, so that's what you don't want it to do. That means I didn't tighten it down enough. So we're gonna try it again. You just pull it back. And then again, my fingers, they're already a little sweaty. So we're gonna put the gloves back on for this one, and we're gonna cross our fingers that it doesn't snap. All right, here we go. All right, and we're gonna say a little prayer and hope this works. If not, you're just gonna see beads flying, and you'll just see what I'm talking about. Okay, so now we're tensing. See, I can feel it slipping. That means it's tightening. And we want it to catch on itself, essentially. So I usually try to do it in different directions, one side to the other. All right. Sometimes I'll kind of go this way and get a little tension from the other end. And we're just gonna try it a little bit more and kind of work with what's going on here. Okay. All right, I'm gonna concentrate just because I'm trying to feel what's going on. Okay, let's see what it's doing now. Catch. I think we might be in business. Give me a second here. I want to make sure it's on. I think we're good. Okay, so I'm gonna take the gloves back off for a second, just that way I can feel it. I can feel it better without the gloves on. I'll probably put them back on in a second, but we want to make sure that that's tightened. Okay, so that's one, and then we want to do another simple square knot. So we're just going to loop it in, and we're going to pull. Pull. All right, make sure it's tight on itself. And see what we've got. Okay. There we go. All right, cool. So now, next step is I'm going to take my scissors. Oh, there they are. Of course, they're right there. Okay, so you see I have the 2 strings left here and the knots here. So what I do is I try to get it as close as possible. I wish I could do it closer to the camera, but the light's in my eye. So we're gonna cut it as close as possible to the knot without undoing the progress we made. And then if there's a little bit too much of an end still on it, I'll just kind of assess it and do one more small clip. Just be careful not to cut the whole thing. All right, now got a little super glue. Again, I don't endorse any brands. This is just the toolkit that I have. Actually, let me get a paper towel. Okay, so then we're going to just put a little dab of super glue on it, and that just helps it stay together. So you're just gonna put a little dab. Oh, I got way too much, so I don't want to lose what I'm doing. So we're gonna use a couple hands here. Try to undo that part on my finger. All right, so I always try to close this as soon as possible because I've been through so many tubes. If you don't close it, then it's pretty much done. It dries out. Okay, and we blow on it. All right, and then this little grommet here, just let it kind of cover it. It'll stick in there, and voila, this is it. So this is again a men's size. They're very popular with the men, and let's see here, and I will size it. So we're at 7 1/4. So that's your indication of the size, and that's how you make a bracelet. So I would like to make more videos going forward on what I do to help my bipolar disorder. Just to touch on that, I also have been on a fitness phase here. I started working out in January. I've been always kind of up and down with working out, but it does really help. So I'll probably touch on that at some point and make a video, just what I do and how it helps me. So stay tuned. Thanks so much for thanks so much for watching. I have walking on my mind because I just talked about fitness, and that's what I do. I walk and hike and do strength training. But anyhow, thank you for watching. Again, please be kind. You know, comments are welcome. Just, you know, try to keep them, you know, not keep them nice. That's all I ask. Thank you so much. Have a good one.